Hello everyone. Over the next 6 weeks we're going to be looking into the lives of the liveaboard cruisers, some with loads of experience and others that just finished their first passage.
Yes, we've been filming this series for the past 6 months, and it is diverse at looking at people that live on sailing, racing catamarans, through to people that have built their own boats and people that have sailed around the world fossil free.
I hope you enjoyed this first program with Shockwave.
Yeah.
So we are here with on board of Shockwave, beautiful trimaran with Scott, Serge and Jeff.
And this is your boat.
Yes.
It's an absolute stunner, isn't it? It's nice and sort of bright and blazoned.
Yes, thanks mate. Look, we put a bit of work into the design of it, and we get a lot of good comments about it. Actually, we get mixed comments. I'd say the majority are good, but there are some purists out there who think it's an absolute travesty and a sin against the sailing community putting a big shark's mouth on the front of it.
It's absolutely fantastic. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
We like it, and it's got some background to it. For my background was in the military, and I used to be a fighter pilot, so that's where the name Shockwave came from. And the shark's mouth was a symbol put on the early World War II fighters that my squadron used to fly. So
that's brilliant. So there's a bit of history there as well.
Yeah, the Kitty Hawks.
Yeah. And what's your sailing history?
Well, basically, after the Optimist, we got this, and I stepped.
Nah, there must be something in between.
No, as a kid, I built my first boat with my dad at 13.
Yeah.
Which was a double-handed one-on-trap dinghy in Australia, 125, quite common in Melbourne, Australia. Then I moved on to catamaran, 16-foot Gemini, a bit of crewing on Tornado, then crewing on monos, Sydney 38s, things like that. And then kept up my own competitive sailing on lasers and things like that, which I still love to do today.
Yeah.
Then I started the ocean racing on a Reynolds XS35 in 2013, and been racing that up until we got Shockwave. And we got beaten up pretty badly on that boat because it was only small. 35 feet in some big oceans makes you feel very vulnerable. So we upgraded. We needed to go to a bigger boat, so we went to Paradox. Original name was Paradox, which we picked up in Canada.
So what made you choose this particular type of trimaran? Because it isn't a fully blown racing boat, is it?
It's like a heavy mod with a reef one in it.
Right.
I think is how I would summarise it. So below 15 knots, we get left for dead with those guys. But once the wind comes in, we can start to compete on handicap with those guys. And indeed, we did quite well in a couple of races earlier this year down in the Caribbean before the virus hit. And it's a compromise between a purist racing boat and a cruising boat. So it has a little bit of living luxuries in it. There's a double berth underneath you in the stern, a double berth forward, a little bit of a galley, little shower, bathroom. So there's enough to have my family of 4 on it for a week and feel comfortable. I think if you were going long distance or for longer periods, you probably want something a bit more spacious.
How long do you spend on it then with the family?
We've got a week here in the Azores this week,
yeah.
And we'll do another week in Croatia later in the summer.
Yeah, beautiful Croatia. Have you been?
No, haven't.
No, it is absolutely stunning. We bought our boat in Croatia, and unfortunately we didn't spend long enough sailing around there. It's absolutely stunning. It's beautiful. Yeah.
We lived in Malta for 4 years and sailed a lot around Malta, Greece, and Italy, but have not done the Eastern Med yet.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the sort of kind of thrill of sailing a boat like this.
Look, I'll be honest, I'm still getting used to this thing. Jeff's probably the guy to talk to. He's a psycho on the helm. I mean, he if it's not blowing 30 knots, his heart rate's down at about 40 beats a minute. That's when he starts to get excited. I think for laypersons like myself or yourself, Simon, 20 knots on this boat's really starting to get exciting. You'll be hitting 30 knots, in the gusts. And the foils, they start working around 16 knots on this boat.
So do they actually lift the whole thing out? Or?
No, they don't. We don't have a foiling rudder, so they're just reducing the displacement on the boat, but not fully foiling.
Yeah.
But it takes the boat from a 30 knot boat to a 35 knot boat, so it's a 5 knot advantage by having the foils.
Yeah. And they're the big tubey things that go in on the side here.
Sea
So
foils.
like dagger boards. Yeah.
Sea foils, yeah.
Yeah. And do you have a little skeg in the middle here?
We have the main dagger board just forward of the mast, which is
as well.
huge because you need to be able to fly the main hull and still have lateral resistance, so it's very long. And that does not have any T sections on it, so the only foiling sections you see are the two sea foils in the ormers.
Yeah.
Okay. How is it cooking during the journeys and these racings? Or how does it work? You buy?
Very lucky to have some culinary experts in our crew. So they're not just good sailors. They can whip up some wonderful meals, and I've got to say, there's nothing better than coming off watch, cold and wet and tired, and having a great meal to snack into. So
because you got a little galley.
it's a little galley, but it's an induction stove.
Yeah. Right.
So it can cook real quick, real fast.
Yeah.
So that means if it's a rough sea and you're not sitting there for an hour trying to heat your bowl of water, it's only a couple of minutes.
I'm not going to ask if you fish because at that speed you're not fishing, for sure.
Well, the guys laugh at me because I do fish, and I'm not very good at it. Meaning, I don't yet have a 20-knot marlin, but I'm still trying to catch one. So I figure that at that speed, anything that can catch the lure is probably worth eating.
Jeff, tell us a little bit about the performance of the boat.
Yeah, she's a great piece of kit. It's an Orma 60. It's built from an Orma 60 mould. So Orma 60 is a 60 by 60 blasting machine, and Shockwave is slightly narrower, same length, slightly shorter rig. So a bit more toned down, but still, like Serge was saying, once the wind's up above 15, 16 knots, the boat starts to light up. So top speeds in, say, 25 knots of wind, we could be reaching along at 30 plus knots.
It's quite an incredible speed, isn't it?
Yeah, top speed we've got on the boat is 37.
Really?
With the foil down, fully lit.
And is that with just one of the floats in the water?
Yeah, so the boat doesn't fully foil. These sea foils just lift the float out of the water, so the boat's trying to push the float under. You put the sea foil down and it's trying to react against that and lift the float out, which in turn reduces the drag and makes the boat go quick.
When you are flying along at 20 or 30 knots, it must be, if you're off watch and trying to sleep, it must be incredibly noisy.
It depends on the point of sail, Simon. So upwind, yes, it's deafening, and you want to have some noise cancelling headphones.
Yeah.
But when we came down here from the UK, we were hitting 25s at times, but it was a following sea, and it was lovely. It wasn't noisy at all. It was beautiful.
Yeah. And what about the sail plan? What sort of sails do you have on the boat?
So it's all, we've got a big Jenica that goes on the end. Everything's furling.
Yeah.
But we've got a big Jenica on the end of the bow.
Yeah.
That's our downwind, like VMG sailing sail. One back, we've got a code 0, we call it the J0, which is a light upwind sail. We use that below 14 knots of true wind. And then back from that, we've got jib 1, 2 and 3.
Right.
And jib 1 we use up to 20 knots, then we step down to jib 2. And jib 3, J3 is storm, 30 knots plus.
And then you've got more traditional mainsail, have you, with traditional reefing lines?
Yeah, we've got a nice, Doyle has maximised our sail plan with the new main.
We got all new sails.
Yeah.
So the new mainsail is basically the boom is as low as it will go, and the main goes as far as it can to the end.
And the sail is right on the.
And then what is it? Kind of like a big square top or something?
Yeah, big square roach on the top.
Yeah.
So.
And you've been on the boat for a long time, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been unbelievably. Yeah, I've been on the boat for 6 years now.
Really?
And it's not stopped moving. But,
no.
Just fantastic for cruising, fantastic for racing. It's just an all-round. It just ticks the boxes all around.
Yeah.
I'm the team manager at this point and co-skipper. Jeff's, as we always say, when we're on the water, Jeff's in control. When we're on the land, I'm the one in control.
So you're the one that books the parties?
Yeah, yeah, and actually had the bar windows put in the container so we can actually have a flip out bar.
Oh, fantastic.
It's fun.
But it must be quite a lot of work keeping this going, you know, from place to place.
Yeah, I mean, excuse me, the logistical part has been never ending. I mean, you know, with COVID this year, we left San Diego December 27th and got into Antigua 2 weeks before the CMC, and you know, during the refit, just trying to get everything coordinated and all that kind of stuff, we got stuck in Nicaragua for 10 days, so I could kind of catch up a little bit. And then we had a couple races, and then all of a sudden Jeff went home because he hadn't been home since November, right? I had been home since December, and then everything shut down. So now all of a sudden logistical craziness was even more.
Well, you mentioned the shipping container, but seriously, you've got a shipping container that you ship around with you?
Yes, sir. We have a brand new 40-foot double-ended container with a kegerator. We were in Malta last year, and we went by the Wizard. The Wizard guys were in town, and they had their 2 containers. And we went over, and Serge was kind of like, "Wow, this is cool." And I'm like, "Yeah, we could really, if we get that boat, because we hadn't put the offer in. I said, if we get that boat, it has a 20-footer, but it's not going to be enough." And he goes, "All right." And then we're standing there, and he says, "Back in the day, we had a whole bar in and things like that. I'd love to have a bar in it." And I said to one of the guys from Wizard, "You're my witness. You're my witness. We will have a keg. He'll get the first beer." But we literally have these 2 flip-up doors that come out, 2 8-foot doors, and we can make a bar and have everything inside.
That's fantastic.
You know, we have an air conditioner, a generator. We can be self-sustaining.
And it's really a workshop and storage, is it, for space?
Absolutely, absolutely. It has our dinghy, our big dinghy in it.
Yeah.
We have a 19-foot hard bottom rib that helps push the boat off the docks and gets all the crew and things going there. So yeah, it's been fun. I mean, it
must be actually quite a fantastic life. You know, I mean, what could be better, really, than cruising around on a boat like this?
Yeah, you know, the boss is paying us to go play.
So, what's been your sort of greatest emotional achievement during this time on the boat?
Greatest race, or just generally?
Yeah, just generally with the boat. You know, when did you just feel like, God, I was satisfied by doing it?
I moved the toilet pump the other day from the toilet to the bilge, and it was quiet and didn't pump air. It was a great day for all of us.
We all have those episodes, you know.
It was a really good day.
It's not exclusive for you.
I mean, I'll say mine was for the 600. I mean, I raced on Chim Chim last year, and we came in from the West Coast of California, and we actually won. You know, our first go at the 600, which just to finish is one thing. Jeff was actually on Arethusa, and they were going to be our main competition. Unfortunately, they broke. But we still had some, you know, we had the mods and Fujin and a bunch, so we won that, and that was just kind of like, for us, right? Coming back, and I brought half the crew from Chim Chim. They're part of our standard crew now. And that was really kind of our goal, and we're out there. We knew we were doing well. At one point I was driving downwind and I popped 32 knots, you know, so I broke that club, which
Damn
is
fast,
just,
isn't it?
it's just, you're in the zone, and I don't know, I was out there for an hour, and they're like, "You got to come in." I'm like, "No," I'm like, "You got to come in." It's somebody else's turn. But to get second for that, I mean, with everything, we were racing to the race. And then at the CMC 2 weeks prior, we broke the boom. So we had to fix that. So that was a whole nother logistical thing. So for us to get second, with a team that had some of us had all sailed together before, some had not, and to come out second, I'm just still getting used to it.
Fantastic. Guys, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.